Hello everyone. Today we will look back together at the lives of the artists who have just passed away. People who touched the hearts of the public with their talent, dedication, and lasting marks in popular culture. This is a moment for us to remember and appreciate the enduring contributions they left behind over the years. If you value memorial content like this, please support the channel by pressing like and subscribing. Thank you for being with us. Now let's begin. Legendary college football coach Lou Holtz, who led Notre Dame to the national championship in 1988, has died at the age of 88. The information was confirmed by his family and those close to him on March 4, 2026, according to sources from American media, including the New York Times. His passing marks the end of the life of one of the most influential coaches in the history of college football. Louis Leo Holtz was born on January 6, 1937 in Follansbee, West Virginia. Ike grew up in a working-class family and attended Kent State University, where he played football as a linebacker. After graduating in 1959, Holtz began his coaching career and quickly became known for his disciplined leadership style and his ability to motivate players. During a career that lasted more than 3 decades, Lou Holtz led several major college football programs such as William & Mary, North Carolina State, Arkansas, Minnesota, Notre Dame, and South Carolina. He was the only coach to lead 6 different programs to bowl games. The most notable period of Holtz's career came when he led the Notre Dame Fighting Irish from 1986 to 1996. The peak came in the 1988 season, when the team won the national championship after an undefeated season and a victory over West Virginia in the Fiesta Bowl. Throughout his career, Lou Holtz recorded 249 victories and was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2008. In 2020, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, recognizing his contributions to American sports. Actor Charles C. Stevenson Jr., a familiar face for his role as bartender Smitty in the popular sitcom Will and Grace, has died at the age of 95. According to information confirmed by his son, Scott Stevenson, to Variety magazine, he passed away of natural causes on January 19, 2026, in Camarillo, California, USA. Stevenson's passing closes a long journey in the entertainment industry, where he was remembered as a supporting actor who always left a distinctive mark on the small screen. Charles C. Stevenson Jr. was born and raised in Piedmont, California. Before entering the acting profession, he served in the United States Navy during the Korean War. After completing his military service, he studied at the University of California, Berkeley, where he graduated with a bachelor's degree in English. His artistic path began relatively late, when Stevenson decided to pursue acting in his 50s, after many years working in social organizations. Stevenson's first television role appeared in 1982 in the series Voyagers. From then on, he gradually became a familiar supporting actor in Hollywood, appearing in more than 100 films and television programs. Audiences could see him in work such as Men in Black, Ghost World, The Office, Baywatch, Shameless, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. However, the role of Smitty in Will and Grace was the character that made his name widely recognized by television audiences. Although he often took on small roles, Stevenson always brought a special sense of naturalness and charm. His simple performances contributed to many memorable moments on screen, and that is also the legacy that audiences will continue to remember for many years to come. American singer and songwriter Neil Sedaka, the author of many famous pop hits such as Breaking Up Is Hard to Do, Oh, Carol, and Calendar Girl, has died at the age of 86. The information was confirmed by his representative to media press after Sedaka was admitted to a hospital in Los Angeles. His family said his passing is a great loss to those close to him, while also marking the end of the journey of one of the pop songwriters with a lasting influence in the music industry. Well, Neil Sedaka was born in 1939 in Brooklyn, New York, into a family with a strong love for music. From a young age, he showed a special talent for the piano and received a scholarship to Juilliard when he was only 9 years old. There, Sedaka received formal training in classical music, but later chose the path of writing and performing pop music. As a teenager, he began collaborating with Howard Greenfield, who later became his longtime songwriting partner, and the pair quickly became part of the Brill Building, a famous pop music songwriting center in New York. From the late 1950s to the early 1960s, Sedaka became one of the music idols of American youth. Songs such as Oh, Carol, Happy Birthday, Sweet 16 and Breaking Up Is Hard to Do achieved continuous success on the charts, helping him sell tens of millions of records. In addition to performing, he also wrote many songs for other artists, helping shape pop music for many years. And for more than half a century of activity, Neil Sedaka continued writing and performing, leaving behind a lasting musical legacy. His simple yet emotional melodies have become part of the memories of many generations of listeners, like a familiar part of the memory of popular music. Guitarist and singer Bob Weir, a founding member of the legendary rock band Grateful Dead, has died at the age of 78. The news was announced by his family in a statement posted on social network on January 10, 2026. According to the announcement, Weir passed away peacefully beside his loved ones after a period of battling illness, closing a journey of more than 6 decades devoted to music. Bob Weir was born in 1947 in San Francisco, California, but he entered music at a very young age and quickly became part of the growing rock movement on the west coast of the United States. In 1965, at just 17 years old, Weir and several young musicians formed the band Grateful Dead, originally named the Warlocks. The group later became one of the symbols of American rock and of the countercultural movement of the 1960s. For more than 30 years, Weir toured and performed with Grateful Dead alongside singer and guitarist Jerry Garcia. He both played guitar and took on lead vocals in many well-known songs such as Sugar Magnolia, Mexicali Blues, and One More Saturday Night. These songs became familiar hallmarks of the band. After Grateful Dead stopped touring in 1995, Weir continued his musical activities and took part in many new projects. With more than 60 years devoted to the stage, he is considered one of the artists who helped shape American rock music. The melodies he left behind continue to be remembered by music lovers around the world. American musician and singer John Forte, an artist who once collaborated with the famous hip-hop group Fugees, has died at the age of 50. The information was confirmed by his family in a statement released on January 14, 2026, according to press sources. Forte's passing closes the eventful life of an artist who once left a distinct mark on late 20th century hip-hop. John Forte was born in 1975 in Brooklyn, New York, and he showed a passion for music early and began pursuing songwriting while still young. In the 1990s, Forte became known through collaborations with members of Fugees, including Lauryn Hill, Wyclef Jean, and Pra Michel. He participated in the writing and production process during the period when the group achieved major success. Forte's name is closely associated with The Score, 1996. The well-known Fugees album considered one of the most influential hip-hop albums of the 1990s. In 1998, he released his debut solo album, Poli-Sci, which reflected a style blending hip-hop, soul, and acoustic elements. Forte's life also went through many challenges. After a legal incident in 2000, he received a presidential pardon from President Bill Clinton in 2001, allowing him to return early to civilian life and continue writing music. In the years that followed, Forte maintained musical activities and participated in community projects. despite a career marked by ups and downs, and John Forte is still remembered as an artist with a distinctive voice in hip-hop. His songs continue to be recalled as part of the memory of a memorable era in music. Singer Chuck Negron, a founding member and one of the lead vocalists of the rock band Three Dog Night, has died at the age of 83. The information was confirmed by his representative to US media. According to the report, Negron passed away on February 2, 2026, at his home in Studio City, California, surrounded by family. He died after a period of struggling with health issues related to heart failure and chronic lung disease, bringing to a close the life of a voice long associated with many famous hits of American rock. Chuck Negron was born in 1942 in New York and grew up in the Bronx. In his youth, he was a notable basketball athlete before deciding to pursue music. After moving to Los Angeles, Negron met singers Danny Hutton and Corey Wells, and the three formed the band Three Dog Night in the late 1960s. The group quickly became one of the most successful rock bands in the United States during the early 1970s. During their peak period from 1969 to 1974, Three Dog Night continuously produced successful songs on the music charts. Chuck Negron was the lead vocalist on many hit songs such as Joy to the World, One, Just an Old-Fashioned Love Song, and Easy to Be Hard. The band achieved 21 singles in the Billboard Top 40 and sold millions of recordings worldwide. Negron's life also went through many challenges, particularly a difficult period involving addiction, and he later overcame it successfully and continued his musical activities while also participating in programs that support people in recovery. The songs he once performed are still remembered by many generations of listeners as part of the memory of classic rock. Bruce Willis, a name associated with many memorable moments of American cinema over several decades. On screen, he often appeared not as a perfect hero, but as a very real human being, sometimes tired, sometimes making mistakes, yet still strong enough to stand up and keep moving forward. That mixture of toughness and everyday humanity made Bruce Willis's characters feel close to audiences and left a lasting mark on film history. Or that same combination of strength and relatability created Bruce Willis's unique identity and helped change the way audiences looked at heroes on screen. They did not have to be perfect. They could fail, but they would still keep going. To understand why Bruce Willis became that kind of person, the story needs to begin far away from Hollywood. He was born on March 19, 1955 in Idar Oberstein, West Germany. At that time, his father, David Willis, was serving in the US, or army stationed in that area. His mother, Marlene, was a German woman from Kassel. Bruce's early years took place in the modest setting of a military family. There were no signs that the boy would one day become a film star. When Bruce was still young, the family moved back to the United States and settled in Carneys Point, New Jersey. It was a small industrial town. Life there was quite simple. Factories, quiet streets, hen and working families who started their days early and worked until evening. Bruce's father worked as a welder and factory worker. The heavy labor meant that many days he came home exhausted. Bruce's mother worked at a local bank, trying to keep the family stable. Money was not abundant, but inside that house one thing was very clear. Everyone worked hard and did not complain much. Bruce Willis grew up in that environment, a place that did not promise glory, but taught him perseverance. He understood early that if you wanted to move forward, sometimes you had to accept difficult days and keep going. But during his childhood years, Bruce also faced a personal challenge. He had a fairly severe stutter. For a child, that could turn very ordinary situations into difficult ones, reading aloud in class, answering a teacher's question, or simply speaking in front of many people. Many times Bruce knew exactly what he wanted to say, but the words became stuck halfway, and the silence would stretch. And sometimes there was laughter from other children. Those experiences were not easy, but they also changed Bruce Willis. When speaking no longer came easily, he began observing more. He paid attention to people's eyes, gestures, and the way others expressed emotions. Gradually, Bruce learned to understand people not only through words, but through very small details. Later, when he became an actor, that ability to observe helped him create very authentic characters. Bruce Willis's roles often did not require long speeches. A single look, a moment of silence, or a short line could already convey emotion. Looking back, Bruce Willis's childhood showed no clear signs of a future star. There was no big stage, no bright lights. Only a boy in a small industrial town in New Jersey trying to overcome a stutter and learning to understand the world around him. But sometimes, quiet beginnings like that are where long stories start. And for Bruce Willis, that journey had only just begun. Before Bruce Willis became an actor, before he stepped into the world of cinema, there was a very small moment that quietly changed the direction of his life. It did not happen in Hollywood. There were no lights or cameras. It was simply a modest stage in a school. At Penns Grove High School in New Jersey, Bruce Willis was not a standout student in the usual sense. He did not lead his class or have particularly notable academic achievements. But there was something different about him, a keen sense of observation and a natural presence that sometimes people around him noticed even before he did. One day, a teacher encouraged Bruce to try participating in a school play. It might have been just a normal suggestion for a rather shy student. But for Bruce Willis, that moment carried a different meaning. When he stepped onto the stage for the first time, he realized something that had never happened before, that his stutter almost disappeared. When speaking as another character, Bruce's voice became more fluent. The words no longer seemed to get stuck in his throat as they had before. The tension that usually appeared whenever he had to speak in front of people seemed to loosen. For a few minutes during a school play, Bruce Willis felt that he could speak naturally. That experience left a deep impression. For many students, the stage was only an extracurricular activity. But for Bruce Willis, it was the first time he discovered freedom in his own voice. From that moment on, the idea of acting began to stay in his mind. Not loudly, but clearly enough for him to understand that he had just found something important. Even so, the road ahead was still very long. After graduating from high school, Bruce Willis entered adult life in the way many young people from working-class families in New Jersey did. He took any job that could help him earn a living. For a time, but he worked as a security guard at a nuclear power plant, spending long shifts in silence. Later, he drove workers for a chemical factory, transporting laborers back and forth between their work shifts. There were also other manual jobs, ordinary work that filled most of his early years. Those years did not appear remarkable from the outside, but they taught Bruce Willis very practical lessons: patience, discipline, and the ability to keep working even when no one was paying attention. And after some time, he decided to return to the thing that had once changed him on that school stage. Bruce enrolled in the drama program at Montclair State University. It was the first time he approached acting more seriously in a formal training environment. He began learning stage techniques, how to build characters, and how to tell a story through performance. But Bruce Willis soon realized that the classroom was not the only place he wanted to be. About a year later, and he made a rather bold decision. He left school. Leaving meant walking away from a stable path and stepping into a world that was completely uncertain. But Bruce felt that if he truly wanted to pursue acting, he needed to go further. He needed to be in the place where opportunities are in competition. were concentrated. So Bruce Willis left New Jersey and headed to New York City. He did not carry fame or connections in the entertainment industry. Only the experience from years of labor, the memory of the stage where he had first spoken fluently, and the belief that his path lay ahead. And it was in New York that the real journey of Bruce Willis began. When Bruce Willis arrived in New York City, he did not arrive as a rising actor. There was no contract, no agent, and no promise of success. He came the way many young people had come to this city, carrying a vague hope and a decision to test himself in the most fiercely competitive place. New York opened many opportunities, but it was also full of challenges. Bruce lived in small apartments, sometimes sharing them with others to save money. Finances were always a problem. During the day, he went to auditions for theatre, commercials, and small roles. At night, he worked to earn enough money to stay in the city a little longer. The job that helped Bruce Willis survive during that period was working as a bartender at crowded clubs in Manhattan. Every night he stood behind the bar, pouring drinks for strangers. The job seemed simple, but gradually Bruce realized that this place gave him something special. From behind the bar, and he saw people in the moments when they were least guarded. Some people walked in with joy, laughing loudly with friends. Some simply sat quietly after a long day. Some conversations began with laughter and ended in arguments. Some love stories were just beginning, while others were slowly coming to an end. Bruce observed everything. He noticed how a person's shoulders lowered when they felt safe. He recognized how a voice changed when someone became angry, and he saw how laughter could turn into tears in just a moment. Gradually, he learned how to read the emotions of an entire room. The late-night shifts also taught him about rhythm and timing, two elements that later became important in acting. When to speak, when to pause. When a short line could create a stronger impact than many explanations. No one called it a school, but for Bruce Willis, the bar in Manhattan became a special classroom where real life itself was the curriculum. Meanwhile, his days continued to revolve around auditions. Again and again, Bruce walked in with the hope that he might receive a small opportunity. And again, the answer he received was often just a shake of the head or an uncertain promise. Rejections appeared more often than opportunities. But Bruce Willis was not unfamiliar with that. His childhood with a stutter, the years of labor in his family in New Jersey, and the manual jobs he had done before had already taught him that things rarely came easily. He kept trying. Gradually, some doors began to open. Bruce received small roles in off-Broadway theatre, appeared in several commercials, and occasionally took background roles in stage or television projects. None of those roles made him famous, but for Bruce Willis, fame was not the most important thing. What mattered was that every role, no matter how small, proved that he was moving closer to the world he wanted to belong to. There was no overnight success, only many years of quiet effort. It was during that period that Bruce Willis began forming his acting style, a way of performing very close to real life, built from genuine observations of people, and although he did not yet know it at the time, those quiet years were preparing him for a much larger turning point waiting ahead. For Bruce Willis, the road to the turning point of his career did not come quickly. It came after many years of patience in New York. Everything unfolded slowly, with almost no sign that something significant was about to happen. But then an opportunity appeared. And when that opportunity came, it did not only bring a new role, it opened an entirely different path for the life of Bruce Willis. In 1985, Bruce Willis was cast in the television series Moonlighting. In the show, he played David Addison Jr., a clever private detective working alongside the character played by Sybil Shepherd. The idea of the show was quite different from many television series of that time. Moonlighting was not only about criminal investigations, it combined humor, romance and drama, creating a fresh rhythm on the small screen. From the very first episodes, Bruce Willis attracted attention. David Addison Jr. was not the typical serious detective character often seen in the genre. He spoke quickly, reacted quickly, and often delivered unexpected responses, sometimes humorous, sometimes sarcastic, and sometimes almost breaking all the familiar rules of the genre. That unpredictability made the character feel alive. On screen, Willis brought a very natural energy. He did not try to appear perfect. Instead, David Addison appeared like a real person, with personality, with flaws, and sometimes quite impulsive. The audience responded almost immediately. Moonlighting aired from 1985 to 1989 and quickly became one of the most talked about television series of that period. The role helped Bruce Willis win an Emmy Award and a Golden Globe, confirming that he was not just a new face, but an actor with genuine charisma. But success on television was only the beginning. A bigger turning point was waiting ahead. In 1988, Bruce Willis took the role of John McClane in the action film Die Hard. At that time, Hollywood action films were usually centered on muscular heroes who were almost unbeatable. They rarely showed weakness and seldom hesitated. John McClane was different. From the very first scenes of Die Hard, McClane appeared as an ordinary man placed in an extraordinary situation. He was tired after a long flight. His marriage was facing problems. And when a crisis erupted inside the skyscraper, he had no plan at all to become a hero. Throughout the film, McClane was injured, bleeding, and constantly forced to improvise. He complained, became frustrated, and sometimes was simply trying to survive for a few more minutes. Yet it was exactly that imperfection that brought the character closer to the audience. Bruce Willis brought into the role something rarely seen in action films of that era: humanity. McClane faced danger not only with strength but also with stubbornness, tense jokes, and the determination not to give up. All audiences saw themselves in that character, a man who was not a superhero, yet continued fighting when pushed to his limits. Die Hard quickly became a global hit. The film was not only successful at the box office, but was also considered a turning point for the action genre. Many critics later noted that Die Hard is one of the most influential action films in the history of cinema. And with that film, Bruce Willis moved into a completely different position. From a rising television actor, but he became an international movie star. The journey from a bar counter in Manhattan to the role of John McClane was not just a step forward in a career. It was the moment when all the years of observing people, the manual jobs, and the failed auditions began to crystallize into a very distinctive acting style, a style that made audiences believe the hero on screen could be someone just like them in real life. After Die Hard, 1988, Bruce Willis was no longer a rising actor. He had become one of the familiar faces of Hollywood. However, instead of continuing to repeat the action hero image that had brought him success, Willis began choosing different roles, experimenting with many genres and shades of character. The 1990s therefore became a particularly important period in his career. In 1994, Bruce Willis appeared in Pulp Fiction, directed by Quentin Tarantino. He played Butch Coolidge, a boxer who refuses to throw a fight as previously agreed and is forced to flee to protect his honor. Butch is not a talkative character. Much of the character's conflict lies in his eyes and in the tension between survival, self-respect, and morality. In a film full of striking performances, Willis's quiet strength still left a clear impression, showing that he was not only an action star. A year later, he appeared in 12 Monkeys, 1995, This science fiction film places Willis in the role of a prisoner sent back in time to investigate the origin of a pandemic. His character lives with the feeling that reality is constantly slipping from his grasp, unsure whether what he sees is real or only distorted memories. The role revealed a fragile and unstable side rarely seen in his earlier performances. In The Fifth Element, 1997, Bruce Willis played Corbin Dallas, a former soldier who becomes a taxi driver in a colorful and chaotic future. In the imaginative world of director Luc Besson, Willis's character becomes the emotional anchor that keeps the story connected to very human feelings. In 1998, Armageddon brought Bruce Willis's image to audiences around the world. As Harry Stamper, the leader of a group of oil drillers sent into space to stop an asteroid from hitting Earth, Willis portrayed a character who was both tough and deeply emotional. Beneath the large-scale action scenes, the story ultimately centers on the sacrifice of a father for his daughter and for the future of the world. In 1999, Bruce Willis delivered one of his most restrained performances in The Sixth Sense. He played Malcolm Crowe, a child psychologist carrying a sense of failure and regret. The film became a global phenomenon and received many Oscar nominations, demonstrating Willis's ability for inward, emotional acting beyond the action genre. Moving into the 2000s, he continued to expand his choices. In Unbreakable, 2000, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, Willis played David Dunn, a security guard who gradually realizes that he may possess unusual abilities. The film approached heroism in a quieter and more introspective way. After that, he continued appearing in films such as Sin City, Red, and Looper, shifting between different styles. Looking back at these roles, one common point can be seen in Bruce Willis's career. That his characters are rarely perfect. They may make mistakes, they may doubt themselves, but they keep moving forward. While his career was developing, Bruce Willis's personal life also faced its own pressures. His marriage to Demi Moore, which began in 1987, was once considered one of Hollywood's well-known relationships. However, media pressure and demanding work schedules gradually created tension. The two divorced in 2000, but they maintained mutual respect and continued raising their children together. At this stage, Bruce Willis was no longer only an action star. He had become an actor with many different layers of roles, and at the same time a person learning to live with fame and the changes in his personal life. At some point in life, the stage lights always begin to soften. For Bruce Willis, that moment came not because he wanted to step away from cinema, but because his health began sending signals that could no longer be ignored. In 2022, Bruce Willis's family announced that he had been diagnosed with aphasia, a disorder that affects language and communication abilities. For an actor, someone who lives by voice and dialogue, this was a particularly difficult challenge. Not long after, but the family shared a more specific diagnosis: frontotemporal dementia, FTD. This is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that affects the ability to speak, understand, and manage many everyday activities. This diagnosis forced Bruce Willis to stop acting, bringing to a close a career that had lasted more than 4 decades. Looking back at the final years of his career, many people realized that some small changes, the way he spoke more slowly or how his delivery rhythm had shifted, may have been early signs of the illness. Even so, Bruce Willis continued working for a long time. His family later shared that he accepted additional projects for a very clear reason: responsibility toward his family and the desire to secure their future. As the lights of the film's set gradually faded, another world became the center of his life. That world was his family. A family became the most important support in Bruce Willis's life, especially as his health began to decline. Beside him was Emma Hemming Willis, his current wife, who became his companion and primary caregiver during this difficult period. At the same time, Demi Moore, his former wife, whom he married in 1987 and divorced in 2000, continued to maintain a close relationship with the family. Bruce Willis and Demi Moore have 3 daughters, Ruma, Scout, and Tallulah. After marrying Emma, he had 2 more daughters, Mabel and Evelyn. 5 daughters, together with 2 wives, past and present, formed a family that is unusual but deeply connected. They often appear together during important occasions, and in recent years, this family circle has become the greatest source of strength for Bruce Willis. Alongside his film career, Bruce Willis also built a strong financial foundation. His net worth is estimated at around $250 to $300 million. Financial success began with Moonlighting, but the major leap came with Die Hard, 1988. In the first film, Bruce Willis received $5 million in salary, a figure that attracted attention at the time. As the series continued to succeed, the later installments brought him tens of millions of dollars through salary and profit participation. One of his most notable deals came from The Sixth Sense, 1999. Willis initially received about $14 million, but thanks to a percentage of revenue agreement, his total earnings from the film were reported to exceed $100 million. Beyond cinema, Bruce Willis also invested in real estate in places such as New York, Idaho, Los Angeles, Turks and Caicos, and Sun Valley. He also participated in business ventures, including co-owning the Mint Bar in Idaho. Alongside his career and finances, Bruce Willis also spent considerable time on community activities. He was a long-time supporter of the Special Olympics and participated in programs with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, helping grant wishes for children with serious illnesses. After the events of September 11, 2001, he contributed to funds supporting the families of victims and rescue workers. He also supported various programs for military veterans, including projects related to mental health and career rehabilitation. In Idaho, where he lived for many years, Bruce Willis also helped support the restoration of old buildings, funded local theaters, assisted small businesses, and supported environmental conservation projects. These activities did not always appear in the press, but for those who worked with him, they were an important part of who Bruce Willis was. A man who did not exist only in action scenes on screen, but also in the quiet actions he took in real life. There comes a moment in the lives of many artists when the stage lights gradually begin to fade. For Bruce Willis, that period began after his family announced a diagnosis of aphasia in 2022, followed later by frontotemporal dementia, FTD. From that point on, Bruce Willis largely withdrew from public life. There were no more film premieres or major public events. His world became smaller, moving into a quieter rhythm of life centered around family and simple daily routines. While at his family, chose to protect his privacy very carefully. Bruce Willis's life now takes place within a small circle. Time at home with his wife and children, slow walks in the yard, and familiar music that brings back memories. Even though communication has become more difficult, family members say he still responds to familiar things, the voices of loved ones, music, or moments of closeness. Looking back at his career, as it becomes clear that Bruce Willis's cinematic legacy was built across several stages. Many critics believe that what makes Bruce Willis memorable is not only the success of his films, but also the authenticity he brought to his characters, a weary smile, a quiet sigh before facing a challenge, and the way he allowed fear, hope, and responsibility to exist within the same person. As he faced illness in the later years of his life, he entered another chapter, one with fewer lights, but filled with the care of his family. The story of Bruce Willis, therefore, is not only the story of a star, it is the journey of a person who moved through many challenges, from a difficult childhood and years of rejection in his career, to the pressure of fame And finally, the challenge of health. In many films, Bruce Willis played the hero, but in real life, his story reveals something simpler: the resilience of a person who keeps moving forward, even when life is never perfect.